Welcome to Broken Chains and Building Dreams, the podcast where broken pieces become stepping stones to strength. Join me, Julio Almanzo, aka JC, as we explore the transformative power of resilience, redemption, and renewal. Each episode will journey from the depths of adversity to the heights of triumph, sharing stories of hope, inspiration, and overcoming obstacles, featuring special guests from all walks of life, from felons to actors to singers to entrepreneurs, individuals who have walked that road from wrong to strong. So get ready for some real conversations about family and the pursuit of purpose, and some good old war stories. So get ready, because we're breaking those chains and building those dreams one episode at a time. My name is JC. I am Wrong to Strong. Welcome to Breaking Chains and Building Dreams.
Welcome back to Breaking Chains and Building Dreams. I'm JC, your host. And in today's episode, I'll be sharing stories from my time growing up in Chicago and in Cicero, where it was just dangerous for me to move around from one area to another, being moved around from my grandparents to my aunts to my uncles to my dads. Every area was a gang. Join me as I recall the challenges of navigating through these tough neighborhoods and facing constant threats. So if you're ready and you're new, please subscribe, leave a comment, share us with a friend. Most importantly, súbanse a la Suburban, because we about to take a ride. What's up, guys? How you guys doing today? You know, if you grew up in Chicago, you know how tough it is to be from whatever area you're from. You know, guilty by association, pretty much. If the other neighborhood sees you coming out of that neighborhood, then that means that you're from that neighborhood, so they're gonna get you. And it's a vicious cycle, man, because like half of those kids don't even know why they hate that other side. For real. Like, I remember as a kid, you know, when I lived on 26th Street, and I wasn't programmed like the rest of the kids on 26th Street. You know, I used to hang around with this kid named Ray. He was 25th in Trumbull, or is, should I say. I used to hang out with him. He was the first person kind of like taught me the ways of, I guess you could say, being American, because he took me to the 5-star store, told me what shoes to pick out, and pretty much I dressed the way that he was dressing, you know, like a gang member. Converse, dress pants, a sweater, 26th Street style. But when we used to ride our bikes, as soon as we would get, I think it was St. Louis where the church is at, as soon as we would get to that street, we would turn around, because that's another neighborhood. That's the 2-6. On my side, it was the Land Kings. So I used to wonder why, all the kids in my neighborhood would turn around and go back. And, me being, I guess, fresh from Mexico, and I wasn't programmed like that, sometimes I would go to the other side, and I would see different areas, because one thing is for sure. So a lot of these areas in Chicago are segregated, right, by gangs, 2-6, Ambrose, Land Kings, SDs. I could go on and on and on, but when you go to a different neighborhood, you experience a different lifestyle. You experience just a different thing. So like, I guess you're almost really willing to risk your life for it, because a lot of people do that. They'll go and cruise on 26th Street because their neighborhood don't have that, where, they cruise over there. There's cars on 26th Street on Fridays and Saturdays. The girls are out driving around. It's a little party. So like, a lot of people will risk their lives to go over there and hang out and experience that. Me being so young and just being moved around so much, I don't think people realize that Chicago has been bad for a very long time, from the Al Capone days till now. Chicago has always been a gangster city. It's always been a hub for drugs, liquor, whatever is selling in the black market. It's always been a hub. So there's always a lot of money, and when there's a lot of money, there's a lot of murders, there's a lot of gangs, there's a lot of organizations trying to run stuff. A lot of gangs have been born since my time in Chicago. Things have changed. A lot of gangs have been renegade against each other. um, but me being a kid, so my dad lived in Cicero. So when we first moved to Cicero, we lived over there by the swap meet on Roosevelt, and I think it was Cicero and Roosevelt. But over there was like the Land Kings were over there, the Noble Knights, uh, 12th Street Players. There was Italian gangs on that side, and there was Bishop Counts, the Mexican gangs. Morden East was like a folks gang, and Morden West was like the Finball gang. All the gangs went to that high school. Um, but I was in seventh grade, and I was going to Cicero school, and I had to blend in because over there it was all the 2-6. I tell the story all the time. I used to hang around with my little buddy Phil that later on got killed. But it was 2-6, 2-2 boys, SDs over there, and I had to move around where I didn't stick out. I didn't stick out because over there right away they're checking you to see what neighborhood you're from, or why you dress this way, why you wearing those colors. So I had to constantly be like on the move, even changing my clothes, stuff like that, because so my dad lived in Cicero, right? My uncle lived on 26th Street. He lived on Christiana, and I want to say 30th. It was the last block before it came out to a garage. It was like a dead-end street back in the day. And then my grandparents lived on 59th Street. That over there was Ambrose, 2-6, SDs, and then a little bit more further was my other aunt on 79th and Pippin. And over there it was 2-6 also, and other gangs. And being a kid, 12, 13, and getting chased, like running for my life, getting shot at, getting beat up sometimes. I sit here and I think, man, like, okay, so I already had PTSD as it was because of what happened to me as a kid, but this just added on to everything. There was times where I really thought I was gonna get killed because I was a kid getting chased by grown ass men, shooting at me, trying to run me over with their cars, and I was running for my life because sometimes, it didn't even take for me to even throw up a gang sign because they just thought that I was part of another gang, and that's how it is in Chicago. You have to be so careful because I've seen it. I've seen it where I've seen my own guys do it, and I feel bad for the person, but it's like you can't do nothing or say nothing because you're part of the madness. You're part of the problem. They would beat up kids that you knew they weren't nothing. You know what I mean? And it was just pure evil just to beat them up. And that's how it was, man. I had to blend in, so I learned to be a chameleon. I learned to like blend in and not stick out. I learned to survive. I learned to run. I learned to stop. There was times where I was getting chased and I was smacking their neighborhood, and I had to pretend to walk like I wasn't afraid and just play it off. And as soon as the car would turn that block, I would be running for my life through the gangways, jumping fences, hiding in gangways, hiding under the stairs. It was crazy, and I think a lot of my friends, like Ernie, that grew up with me, knew that I was always on the street like that. So sometimes, they would actually like run away with me and just, I guess, kick it with me because honestly, I just didn't want to go home. I hated my dad. I hated the new family he had started, and I just didn't want to be home. So, I ran the streets. And a lot of people have told me in the past, that I did it to myself because like I had a home and all these things, but uh, it wasn't really a home when you're being told that you're not the smartest kid, but you have other gifts. That's what they used to always tell me, and you know, my 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 life was already taking a turn just because of what I had been through as a kid, and then what I started seeing. I guess you could say as I grew up a little bit 10, 11, 12, 13. I seen so many shootings, murders, guys getting ran over. Uh, Chicago's really bad, and I always say this that if you're from Chicago, you probably highly have PTSD. You've seen something, you've been around something's happened, and you've been around like Chicago is I don't know how to explain it, man. It's a city. You know, I went back to Chicago after being in Arizona for, let me see, I had been in Arizona, I think about 4 or 5 years, right? Um, I went to Chicago. I rented a car, jumped off on the highway, blah, blah, got some gas. I didn't realize that I was in someone's neighborhood, right? Put gas. Next thing you know, I have a gun pointed at me, and he's asking me where I'm from. Lucky for me that I had a hoodie on, I had like a jacket, it had all my tattoos covered up. And I pulled out my Arizona driver's license and I said, "Yo, I'm from Arizona, I'm not even from here." And he's like, "Bet." And he left. Right there and then I said to myself, "You lost it. You lost that Chicago edge, that knowing what gas stations to go to, checking your rear mirrors, all three, watching what light you stop at, locking the doors before you get to a certain light, like all that you get by growing up in that city was lost because I had been in Arizona for so long." Right there and then I said I wouldn't survive here anymore. So, it's that day I made the decision that I really couldn't come back to live to Chicago just because I had gotten comfortable. And it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. Like for me, it's a win, man, because I grew up with my flight and fight mode on. I just learned how to turn it off not too long ago. And learning to be at peace and learning to not be like that has been one of the greatest wins in my book, because I was very, very paranoid for a very long time. It was almost like schizophrenia, voices, even with loud noises, I would, panic and not be able to be in places. But, God is good, man. And it's the reason why I have to share everything from my childhood to now, and what God is doing in my life and what he's done, and how he kept me safe throughout these years, man, because now that I look at my life, I'm like, man, I'm like a walking miracle. Like, yeah, I got a couple bruises, a couple stitches and scars and missing teeth and stuff like that, but man, like I'm here. I'm here, and like the most beautiful thing, like I was telling somebody yesterday, is like I get to work with like guys like me that honestly I never really saw myself being anything more than a gang member because that's all I seen as a kid. It's all I knew, and it's all I thought I could be. I mean, how sad is that? And that's like a lot of kids in those neighborhoods because they idolize these gang members because they see them with good clothes, jewelry, the girls like them, all this stuff, and to them that becomes their hero, their person they want to be like when they grow up. I would have, honestly, now that I see my life different and everything, I would have loved to have been a cop in my neighborhood. I would have loved to have been able to just make a difference, and most of all, like, just show the kids that, there is a different way. There is a better way, and you could become anything you want, anything. And that's why it's so important to share these stories, to share the stories of the ones that I guess you could say made it out, um, and saw the difference and saw how important it was to change and go back, because they say that a lot of us that change don't go back. My greatest like mission is to go back and do what I can. This trip in April to Chicago, to these prisons, is I don't even know how to say it. Like God is good, and I believe that he's created everybody with a purpose and a mission, and I feel that mine is to walk into these places where I was at one time and where I thought it was my home, and just share the message of hope and redemption and love. Um, I don't feel like that scared little kid no more, and I did for a lot of years as a grown man. I felt like a scared little kid. God has, matured my heart. He's put it back together, and he's taking me back to places where a little bit of that kid was left. And now I get to tell him that he doesn't have to be afraid no more. He doesn't have to worry no more. He's gonna be okay. I get to share that with that person, that little JC. I share my stories. I tell you guys not to brag, but I share it so you guys can see how humongous this transformation is and what God has done in my life. Sometimes I have to pinch myself to see if it's true, because I have this joy in my heart and this love that sometimes it's just unreal. We have to step up. We have to step up if we want to start trying to help our kids, our future, our youth. And even as men in their 20s and 30s, I know what it is. It's hard to mature when you've grown up in these areas. It's hard to think different when you haven't seen it. But this is why I believe that God has gifted me with the wrong to strong, and I'm gonna keep wanting to share moments in my life and share tools and speak and be a voice for those incarcerated, be a voice for the youth in the urban areas, and just lead by example. My name is JC. I was born on the south side of Chicago. I spent most of my life incarcerated. I spent most of my life addicted to drugs. I spent most of my life addicted to chaos and women. But today I'm a man of God. Today I believe that Jesus Christ died on the cross, and he died for all my sins and yours. Today I believe that he's restoring everything in my life. Today I believe that he's restoring my heart, my mind, and what the enemy tried to take from me. From the moment I got baptized, from the moment I got married, from the moment my kids reached out to me, and the prison doors started to open. My name's JC. I am wrong to strong. Stay in your lane, live savage, and live for him. I'll catch you guys on the rebound. As we wrap up today's episode, I want to thank you for listening to my story of survival in Chicago. Remember, no matter how tough things may seem, there's always hope for a better future. Don't forget to subscribe to Breaking Chains and Building Dreams for more inspiring content. Help us get the message out. And if you feel in your heart, you could go to our GoFundMe for our prison ministry. Until next time, stay safe, stay strong, stay in your lane, and live for Him. Súbanse a la Suburban.